Hi. Hello. Hello. Ooh. Hi. Just waiting for a few more people. Hello. Ooh. Hello. Hi. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Beautiful. Look at all these beautiful people joining. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really excited.
Yes, been waiting. I
I know.
I put an alarm.
Me too.
Let me fix here. There you go.
I love it. All right, should we get started?
Yeah, why not?
Now's a good time. Hello everybody. My name is Maria. I work for the Camp Gallery. I write all our beautiful interviews, and I work with our social media sometimes. Tonight, I'm in conversation with Aurora Molina. She's a Miami-based fiber artist, and she's one of the founders of FAMA, which is Fiber Artists Miami Association. And we collaborated with them for our current exhibition, which is 40 women pulling at the threads of social discourse. And it's all textile art. It's really ingenious. Aurora sews what I believe you called public dialogues. And it's like between the old and the new, the past and the present, the technological and the, I guess, physical. And you're commenting on our like obsession with glamour and ego through social media, and you're redirecting our attention to the everyday, like the quotidian. Currently, I'm in front of your piece for the exhibition. This is I go to prepare a place for you. And it's cotton thread on canvas, and there's velvet and beeswax in it. It's beautiful. So how are you feeling about this exhibition?
Good. It's like just giving birth. I'm in the postpartum momentum.
You're really good.
Yeah, very excited. I think I took Sunday just to just relax for a little. As we opened on Saturday and we had a great turnout and all the artists were there. Everyone was very excited.
Yeah.
So relieved and accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, the gallery was buzzing, safely masked, but we were all buzzing.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about Fama. What is it? How did it start? Who's in it? Tell me all about it.
So we FAMA started during the pandemic. It was an initiative that sort of like took a leap of faith after Alina Rodriguez we started to do these teachers workshop that I think saved us during those very harsh, sort of like lockdown months. We will meet almost every day with a group of art teachers and artists online. And we created something that was called Threading Thoughts, and it was a series of workshops. Then one day, because alike minds, like they called each other without tapping the phone, I
Yeah.
got a call from Evelyn Pulitzer, who's another fiber artist. And she said, Aurora, I've been thinking about this, and there's this initiative happening elsewhere. What do you think? And I said, okay, I think we're onto something. We've been practicing these, and it was very successful with all the teachers. Everyone was engaged. And I think we could call it, synchronicity. So I said
Yeah.
we need to call Alina because she's been, we've been doing this together, and I think it's exactly what you're suggesting. So we need that third leg. to balance.
Yeah.
So one day I introduced Evelyn to Alina that didn't know each other, and we were already ready without knowing. So we got very excited, and everyone got on a task. Alina got on the task of putting the website together. Evelyn started to calling artists, Fiverr artists, and I was given the task to think about what project can we propose to this group of artists without having one. So that's how Fama started.
Wow. So it was an organic coming together of like,
Completely.
I really like that. I mean, you can tell, like, seeing you all in action on Saturday and like working with you for the last month, there's a synergy between all of you. You're all on the same page. Um, and it's not often you hear like horror stories about like collectives who come together and there's always like a secret tension. But you guys make it look so flawless.
I mean, it's been a lot of work. It's been a full-time job.
Yes.
Um, so, but it's, I think it's gonna pay off. We're super excited by the first meeting to have 30 people attending. Everyone committed to becoming a member. And then we started to see that it was real, and now we had this compromise with so many people kind of like waiting for us to do something to make it like tangible. So by the second meeting we started to talk. I had been working on a series of works that dealt with the woman's right to vote, the 100-year anniversary. So I think that a lot of conversation that had been coming along those teacher workshops that dealt with the making and the hands, and looking at artists that use textiles and form of activism. So I think all of that just started to close, and it became this first project. So
And this is Fama's first official project.
it is. So by the second meeting, we had already proposed to the group of artists that became members this project, thinking that it was a great consistent way of starting to think about something with just the only sort of like restriction, and it wasn't a restriction, it was kind of like a format. Right. It was that the work would be 40 by 60, and that in some form of way from each other's experiences and techniques, they had to think about the centennial, the 100-year anniversary of the woman right to vote. And that was it. Those were all the parameters we gave him. So
that's certainly a fount for creativity. And I was wondering about that because I worked on like writing basically inventory down, and I noticed everything was 40 by 60. So I'm happy that you answered that question. But I mean, certainly those guidelines didn't hinder anybody's creativity because there is not a single piece in this exhibition that looks the same. It does not. Each piece is unique. And I think it's really a gift to people who are looking at it. And I'm sure it was a gift to everybody in Fama, but especially you and Evelyn and Alina. Did you think it was going to be this big?
I mean, it was a complete incognito because I think by the last meeting before the artists had to turn in their works at the gallery, we hadn't seen anything, not even sneak a peek. Um, so when we got the works on that Saturday, I think it was the first week of September, we were like completely at all, because it's like, oh my god, like this is gonna be a great show. Like the pieces are really well crafted, well thought out. There are a few artists that went a little bit beyond the 40 by 60, but
Yeah.
others were smaller, so that sort of like averaged out the space. um and Yeah, everyone I think had a great time thinking about the piece, conceptualizing the piece. There's some members in Fama that they're not artists, and I think it's just very risky
Yeah.
for them to be among other professional artists, and that's what makes these I think it's what makes this show strong, is that many people, that this was even artists that never did fivers before, they jumped at these new adventure of discovering fivers. So I think that was great. I think that was truly great.
Yeah. How do you feel as a fiber artist who has had a long and strong career? How do you feel, first off, how do you feel about um, artists who are not historically textile artists? How do you feel about them jumping into this medium that you're so like comfortable in, so good in?
I mean, I have to tell you, I wish I could have come up with that for some pieces of like I could give you an example. Deborah Rosenthal, she was very um, she was very timid, and she's a wonderful weaver, wonderful, skilled, and she's in the pharmaceutical industry. So she definitely had the hands. She got that down, and she's very good friends with Evelyn, who invited her to become a Fama member. And then she comes to my studio to drop off the work, and she's like, opening it, and it's like, okay, this is great, the craftsmanship at some point. And then she said, but I was very, excited about the project, so I made a second one. And when she unfolded the second one, which is the one that's at the gallery,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, oh my God. And she said, but you don't have to put the two. And of course, I didn't know which decision we were going to make. So I said, let me have the two. And then once we're there, we'll make the decision. So the way she thought about the color on that second one, the first one, you could see that she's being careful, she's being rational about it. And then on the second one, you see her deconstructing the weaving, you see her putting threads and textures, and you see a piece that a person is having fun with. And then the conceptual part, it's that the lines are very organic. So Evelyn was very afraid of telling her the first piece didn't make it to the show, and I said, this isn't my executive decision. The second one is in. So the second one was the one that really, it seemed like a nice thread into the show next to Liane Bosque, because they're very graphic. And then you see the yellow, purple, and white fusing into the other pieces, which
Right.
is an allegory to the suffragist flag, those colors. So, and it was and she wasn't even sure that that was the piece. She just brought it for me to see it. And I said, it's, and I admired that so much, because definitely the skills is there. She took a risk of conceptualizing a piece, and many other people did it that way too. But this is a one very specific person that it's not an artist, quote unquote. But you know, she did a tremendous job.
I would have never guessed she's in the pharmaceutical industry at all.
Doing COVID tests.
And she found the time to weave.
Yeah, she's a natural, you know. And then she says,
Yeah.
I need to spend more time. So this is the beautiful thing about this group, and it's the one thing we want to concentrate in more. It's inviting those people and not continue to uh you know, stay on that close community of Fiverr artists by opening it. And not only opening so people could come and make the cut for the show, but opening it so people can take these kinds of risks. And we want to do a series of workshops and just advance Fiverr art in general. So
I love it. Um, so my follow up to that was you have this long, strong career as a fiber artist. Why focus on fama now, especially during quarantine? Um, we're lucky that we have our gallery space to host it in, but for the most part, even though Miami restaurants are open now, um, there's nowhere really to go and a lot of people aren't venturing out. So why start it now? Does it have to do with opening up space for people to, I don't know, explore themselves through fiber or find community in a time of isolation?
I think everything was very timely, and usually things happen to me that way, and they happen like that a lot. So the same way I was working with Alina on this series of workshops, and Evelyn called me that time, and then this opportunity happened, and we were ready. Melanie had told me that the space we did an exhibit last year, which is um, pulling the strings of political discourse. She contacted me, and I was very flattered to be able to, you know, have the opportunity to use the space and invite other fiber artists. So she said from the beginning, since last year, it's like this is going to be an ongoing series of exhibits. So I knew October was coming. She calls me and reminds me. Little did she know that I was planning, instead of a 8-7 person show like last year, it was going to be 40. So you know, again, call it synchronicity. We did not plan for these to be in a gallery. We didn't know if it was even going to be a show, but somehow I was already thinking about these opportunities. And I knew that she was going to be all for it.
Yes,
I mean, it could have been a disaster, to tell you the truth. It could have been like a kindergarten, you know,
that's true.
ripped jeans kind of show. It's like it could have been a complete disaster. Um, but somehow you gotta trust. You gotta, you know, I read somewhere that uh, our gender lacks from trusting our guts.
Yes,
Because we're being told that we have to be very rational about things, and I'm so good at it. uh you know, it's
me
like
too.
it's gonna happen, you know, maybe it's about time, but I think it's, you know, it's meant to be kind of thing. Because I trust the people that I work, and um working with Melanie, it's always been a great experience. I wouldn't have invited 40 artists if I did not know the kind of commitment that we were getting from the gallery,
Yeah,
because it's a big responsibility. So from the beginning, I really told the artist that this was a person that it was trustworthy, that she was going to do 110%. And that has been the case. And I think they, if they don't know it, they should feel very lucky, because most galleries don't go that way.
no, they
So
don't. And I think it's important to make a note of what you said about how our gender, we're told that we're not being rational, that we shouldn't, trust. ourselves, but oftentimes the most beautiful things happen when we defy all of that, especially this. And I think the most special part about it is that this gallery is like, it's owned by a woman, it's run by women. Like, why wouldn't it work? And I think it really speaks to what you're doing, or what you all did, what you came together to do, to celebrate women's suffrage, 100 years of women's suffrage, and how everything just happened with serendipity. Like, everything was just meant to be. It was meant to be in a gallery run by a woman. It was meant to be a project by women. Do you think that has anything to do with how fiber art has been traditionally a woman's medium?
So if answering, like, sort of like taking back to your question and joining it to this one, I was so caught up with other previous commitments that I should have not taken fama right now. I should have said maybe it's on the waiting list, you know. But to tell you the truth, it's something that we had tried other fiber groups before, and it was something that was there. It was an idea that always had been lingering, because by now you make community,
Right.
and as an artist, I think that social practice of extending that network, it's part of why I jumped at this opportunity, because I think that's my commitment to what I've learned, and exactly to something that's very much to the gender, and it's sort of like claiming that space and
Yeah.
using the thread as a language. It's using the thread as a statement, and I think everything just, you know, came together also in the times of political debate of everything that's happening. It's like, you know, make your thread rattle, like make it talk. And I think if you even look back at some of the research, um, that we were doing, you know, we looked at the feminist avant-garde movement. You know how, you know, Miriam Shapiro used that language to bring community together, to create a movement, and that sort of like took its momentum, and then it sort of like faded away. And I feel like now fiber, it's having that momentum, but again, it's being claimed by you know, the male artist that's trying these, and it's sort of like it doesn't belong to, I mean, it's not that it doesn't belong, because you could look
Right.
at that, but it's sort of like it's been such an attachment to womanhood, to motherhood. I mean, I teach fiber art every moment that I can, and even with the kids, they go to the grandmother. It's like they see
Yeah.
that connection. So I feel like this is the time. Someone wrote there's no better time than now. And I feel like, you know, this was the moment to sort of like uplift that spirit. The Woman Suffragette League, Artist League did in England. That turned into a whole movement that was taken by male artists. You
Yeah.
know, they got erased in the history, but that was how they got to the community, by creating sewing circles. The artists were doing that to talk about the importance of voting, and claiming the need to have the woman vote. So I think, you know, it all connected, it all came together,
Yeah.
and I'm committed to that. I'm committed to advance and educate, using this medium, and that's what we're doing it.
I love it. How has this changed your, like, speaking about community, how has this changed your relationship with isolation? in the life
That
and
was another factor. I think it was those meetings feeling like you could still see these people. I mean, we got so excited on Saturday that at one point it's like I was on the clock, finding each other like it's time for you to leave. We have the next one reserved. And at one point you just get excited because you see your friends, you see your community, you start talking. And then at one point Evelyn looks at me, it's like, I think we're overcrowded. And then I went and get you guys because I didn't want to be the bad person and make space because, we're social beings.
yeah,
I mean, you want that community, you want to see your friends, you want to talk about the piece. So I think it was part of doing that socialization. It was like through Zoom, like where else would you meet?
yeah.
So
It's so difficult. I mean, but I love that this, especially with the textile exhibition and like considering the history of knitting circles and women learning to embroider instead of going to school, like I feel like it really is a reclaiming of what isolation is meant to be, even in like a digital era. If you're all working on this one textile project together, this exhibition, it has the same purpose. Even then, you're still connected if you're not seeing each other face to face until the opening night.
exactly. So we were super excited too. And we had a great turnaround. There was some artists that said, "Oh my God, I cannot believe this is the first time I'm officially to some social event." It's like
It was my first social event too in a very long time.
that did bring some consequences because Sunday, even though I took it to rest, I said, "Oh my God, I was in contact with so many people. Did I get close to it?" You get a little paranoid about it
Yeah.
too. But it's all good. It's all good.
Okay, so let's talk about the exhibition itself. Um, what was the biggest struggle in putting it all together? Because it's 40 different artists, though there are, I think, a few like duos, like a few pairs, and there's one collaborative piece by the door. But that's still like a lot. That's a lot of people. And we're not seeing each other in person. Everything's being done through email, through text, through phone call, however, through Zoom. How did you make that happen? Like, was that the hardest part, or was there anything, any other kind of obstacle?
Um, I mean, the first thing was to get everyone on track, to send their contracts and information. It felt like we were reprimanding a fifth grade class. And then Melanie said, just leave it up to me. And she
Yeah.
became that person, which we totally did. We should have done it from the beginning as she suggested. But everyone got in their information. She was very generous to give the opportunity to many of these artists to create a digital profile on RC, which is the great job of all her team, including you. Um, and that sort of like became the first, oh my God, now we're getting ourselves into these, check emails, send, create a folder, organize. That was a lot. Then it was like, okay, you gotta commit to bring the work certain days because we're gonna have the photographer come. It's like, okay, what if they done because they haven't finished? It's like, who's gonna turn it in later? Because there's always that person. I know from experience. Uh, uh, so, and then we are making our own work, trying to finish everything else. So it became a lot. Thankfully, Alina, Evelyn, they sort of like put me on the side because I had a full couple of days working on a piece that went to the Frozen Art Museum. And then with you, you did all the digital, all the folders and files. And then I said, okay, when it comes time to make up my time, I'll go to the gallery and do the install. So you know, it was a great way of the three of us really work well together in distributing.
Oh, she's frozen. Hi.
Yes.
It's
Sorry.
okay.
Uh, so we did well distributing that. But it becomes tense at one point when you start getting all those tiny little like and then it's like, oh my
Yes.
god. So then you ask yourself again, you check yourself again, why are you doing these, why are we doing these, what is our commitment, not only the three of us but all of us together, and how we can continue to move it forward. So, um, what can I tell you?
It's all a labor of love at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Um, so, on the other, hand, what are you most proud of when it comes to this exhibition? Because it is a massive deal, and I mean, it's been on Cultured, it's been in the Herald. Tons of people are talking about it. So many people have RSVP'd. Like, what are you proudest of?
I mean, it's, I think it's going back to why we started it. It's like realizing we did these, and not everyone learns or understands the kind of commitment on the same speed. So some people are coming into these and they might, it might take some time for them to understand. This is not Fama representing any artist. This is
Right.
us presenting a project. So there's no the ego centrism of the artist. It's like we're doing these with a commitment that we're pushing these forward, that the message it's being heard, and we're doing it all together. um, whether you start, this is your first piece or not. um, I mean, my professor Pipran that taught me and got me into these entanglement was in the show,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh my god, like what am I doing, like am I curating the show? There are other artists with a great trajectory, and then you see people trying to flourish too, um, and I think that's, to me, and I could only speak personally, when I see um, that taking that risk, it's when I say, this is because it's very easy for a fiber artist to make a work, you know.
Right.
This wasn't a task or a homework, it was to change perspective and to think um, historically and from that context. But then I invited a bunch of students of mine that I've been teaching fiber art, and they were, they took the risk. And
Yeah.
some others that committed at the beginning, they freaked out and they say, no, I have to do an artist statement. I have to sign a contract. Like, what is that? Uh, and they backed up. But some others, they took the risk. And for me, that's the purpose of Fama. It's getting more people to take that risk, that other than the press and the gallery, and
Right.
it's all great. What really makes me proud, it's seeing those new people trying the material, thinking conceptually how to put it to work on a piece, taking that risk, and that's the educational and advancement that Fama is committed to.
Hmm. I love that because it really is about, I mean, the purpose is art, right? But it's also about community, and it's about taking those risks. And I just think what y'all are doing is really important, especially now. I think this show is incredibly important right now. I mean, we're only a few weeks away from election. It's only been 100 years that women have had the right to vote in this country, um, and how times have changed, and yet it feels like nothing has changed historically. So I think, like you said earlier, it's just synchronicity. Like this is all so purposeful and so important. Um, so that said, what are your goals for this exhibition?
I mean, I think we're gonna give it a couple of weeks, just to, you know, be able to digest all the work we all have done. We definitely have a couple of things planned. Other members are looking for other opportunities to continue to move the show around. Um, but for me, it even goes beyond that. It sets a record. It marks a beginning of something. You know, for me now going forward with Fama, I see, you know, workshops and other opportunities that could help exactly those people that have jumped into these, that could bring conversations about other artists, other materials, other cultures, and how textiles and fibers have play along those historical lines. We are planning to print those flags on a material on sort of like fabric banner like material that could travel, because the original work, it's, you know, it's very fragile. Of course we want to provide insurance, but we don't want to be responsible, because it's not about that. Fama, it's not about that. It's about continuing the conversation.
Right.
So you know, that's what we're at right now.
I love this so much. I'm just in awe as you're answering. Like it makes me so happy. Okay, is it a particular goal that Fama, whatever Fama does from here on out, beginning with this exhibition, this coming together, is it a particular goal for everything to have a political edge, or to kickstart political conversations at all? Or do you think that's just like inherently what you're all doing as artists living now?
I think, as I told you, these definitely marks a beginning.
Right.
And I don't know if going forward it's still going to be political. One thing that's very clear is that we're going to be paying attention to our social context. And of course, the social is political. So therefore, it's going to be political, but maybe not in a historical context, like it's this one specifically. But you know, I think art, it's one of the most democratic things that you could find. Everyone expresses themselves however they see it fit, and definitely fiber has that too. So you could, you know, unravel that thread or not. So everyone, it's going to be looking at whatever project or idea we bring in next from where they're standing. So there was one artist in the show, Maru, and I'm calling out, that she calls me. It's like, oh my God, this is the first time I'm going to be in a fiber. She's a photographer. She's the one right next to mine.
Yes.
So we sort of like, you know, came to meet each other, and she started to explore fiber art, and she's very good at it. And she calls me, it's like, but I don't know if the word's gonna feed, because it's not, it doesn't have to do with 100-year that one, yeah, with 100-year anniversary specifically. So I'm gonna look at it more from my perspective as a Venezuelan and Latin American, And I said, that's fine, you know, because that's another perspective. It's, you know, you're an immigrant, you bring in that experience in the work. But she was so like, so I did therapy too. It's been many hats. I've done a couple of psychological sessions to make these artists be sure of what their choice was. And I think we, you know, we've been doing a lot of that back and forth.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
she did a piece that was extremely strong, that even the thread, you know, she used it, and she used it in Spanish, and she was committed to all of those ladies she photographed, and she made a reference um, of many women that were silent, which has to do with the 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote, you know. Even when that decision was made and everything was ratified, there was some woman that still did not agree,
At
and
all.
still did
Yeah.
not agree that women should vote. um, so it still speaks about that.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty about all the works. It's like, it doesn't matter where you're coming from. Me as an audience, I'm going to read into it with that perspective.
Yeah.
So definitely when you see the cross in the lips and you see the context of the show, you know it's talking about those layers of many women, you know, just being quiet. And it translates into being quiet hurts more. And
Yeah.
it does. And it's a, you know, it's a symbolism to the gender being appreciated as lesser and quieter and more submissive. So she had the piece. She just needed a little push.
If I What I really love about Maru's piece, Callar Duele Más, is that everything you just said, and it also, all of what you just said highlights how it's like an old saying. I'm probably not saying it properly, but like, what affects one of us affects all of us, especially as women. I mean, we may not understand each other's pain to the fullest or each other's experiences, but it affects us nonetheless. Um, I love that. Okay, so what I have left for you are a few like lightning round questions. Um, so
So
just, you know,
we're in the last round.
yeah, I could literally is this was especially true of the virtual opening live that we did on Saturday. The time flies. We went to like 40 something minutes. I had no idea.
It was fun though. I was
Yeah.
cracking up because the funniest thing was some people that were at the gallery, instead of watching us, they were watching the live on the phone. That was
It was so I don't think I've had that much fun on social media. Except for when like Kanye West goes crazy and like tweets like crazy. I haven't had so much fun. It was so chaotic, but it was so organic.
I think it made people I got a comment from just George Fisherman, that he wrote the article in the Herald saying like, you know, what a great communion of
Yeah,
live and in person. So I think for those that couldn't come, it made it feel like you were there, you know, and that's exactly how it feels when you're in person in a show. It's like, you know.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but during that live, I kept moving like this. I was sitting in front of our door, our office door, and people kept coming in and out. So they'd like push me into the phone. And then you would walk closer, so I have to lower the volume and listen to you over the wall. I haven't had so much fun at an opening.
That was great. That was great.
Okay, so my first lightning round question for you is, which artists are you most inspired by?
I mean, I think right now, I tell you right on top of my head, I'm revisiting books about Louise Bourgeois. If I could buy a piece, I mean, it would be a sculpture of hers, and that's on my bucket list. Um, and now revisiting the philosophy behind her work. It's like the I do, I undo, I redo. And I think that's just a great philosophy to sort of like as a mantra repeated every day. And I'm teaching a class here at my atelier with this group of girls. They're 6 and 7 years old, and I'm talking to them about the myth of the spiders and understanding line through the web of the spider, and talking about all these philosophies. So every time they come into the class, they have to say, I do, I undo, I redo. It's like, there's no space for getting frustrated. If
Right.
it didn't happen how you projected it, just back up, revisit it, and go again.
I,
um, and I think as an artist, that's what we're constantly doing. That's creativity at its source. It's go again. You try it again.
yes. Yeah. Especially, it also speaks to how, like, everything in life is something that we must adapt to and how we have the power. Wow.
And also another thing that I'm fascinated by Louis Bourgeois, it's also her commitment to education. Um, and when we were doing these workshops with the art teachers, it hurt me to see how the same uh, institution sort of like separates the art teacher from the artist, and they have been able to come into uh you know like they haven't been able to synchronize that, and they keep it one way or the other because that's
Right.
how you are seen. So Louise Bourgeois was an educator at heart. Like, she thought about taking every moment to be a teaching moment. So in her late 80s, she would host these
Frozen. Hosties, you're here.
she would host these sort of like groups and circles for college students to come and present their works. And she would, do critique rounds. And I mean, I love that. I love that connecting with people, and be able to, just make them think the why.
Yeah. It's Frozen. Why what? Oh no.
So in that sense, I truly appreciate that as well.
I love it. So okay, do you have a no? I'll save that one for later. So like I said earlier when I introduced you, your work is about driving or diverting attention away from ego and being told what we should aspire to have, and the glamorization or glorification of youth even, and you divert our attention instead to everyday life, to what's real, to what's happening. um, can you tell me how that plays a role in your piece right behind me?
So when I started to think about these pieces, I wanted to do it from a historical context, because I was learning. I mean, I wasn't born here.
Right.
I feel like I have such a big privilege to be able to vote, and because I didn't have that in my country, not the slight concept of it. So for me, it was a way to even come to understand more the historical context of the same principles of which this country was funded, and to understand many people that have fought for the freedoms that I have acquired now. So I knew I wanted to look at it historically. So I started to see how the movement developed from England to here, how it was separated. So these pieces, sort of like an allegory of those, how the same fight got fractioned, because the women that were up the front, they didn't want it to turn into a race battle.
Right.
So the two minority groups, the African Americans and the Native American, which they were fighting for the same cause, got pulled on the side, and they continued to fight, but in a quieter way. So in these pieces, I wanted to bring them together. And this is a very iconic photograph of Susan B. Anthony and Katie, um, reading a photograph of them reading some kind of paper. So for
Oh,
me, bringing Harry Tubman, and if you kill me now, I cannot say her name, and I couldn't last week, and I should.
Marie Louise.
Do you have it with you?
Yes, it's Marie Louise, I think Bottineau.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Baldwin.
Yes. So I got this image from a beautiful photograph that had these flowers on the background, and of course the braid, and she was dressed in these traditional Native American garment. And I said, it's a beautiful way of using the flowers to tighten together the photograph as it would have existed in history, as if they would have read the okay to the movement from these two um, ladies that were conducting the orchestra. And then I thought about the bees working together. That's what I use, beeswax, and the way I installed it on the wall, it's sort of like to create a honeycomb, like attached, sort of like an amorphous way.
Right.
So I wanted history to have been written this way, but we cannot change history. You can only imagine if things were different. And it's sort of like a courtesy and honor to these ladies that fought the same fight. So, and definitely paved the way for me to be able to vote. And it's part of
Yeah.
also like we should not forget history. And I think this show specifically, everyone was very committed to remind everyone through their piece the importance of voting, and more so from the woman's perspective.
Absolutely.
So,
Today's I think the last day to register to vote in Florida.
yeah,
So very timely.
yeah, look for it and do it. Please do.
Yeah. Thank you for explaining it. I feel like I understand it a million times better. Yeah. It's a very beautiful piece. I'm happy that it is where it is because I think it kind of bridges
So even when I
the
was
pieces.
installing the other pieces, I thought about that wall as sort of like a look through history and through minorities. So Silvana's piece talks about we the people and sort of like collaging everyone together. And then you have Letty next to it that talks about specifically suppression of the African Americans. And then you have
Right.
Marius that also talks about that suppression of Hispanics. And then it's tied in with the girl facing the Wall Street Bull. And
Yes.
the first piece sort of like leads to that discourse by saying your voice, your vote. So I thought it was a great narrative. Every piece, it's where it is because it threats to the next piece. It sort of like connects it. And I was very careful of creating that dialogue.
Yeah.
So
There's definitely a rhyme and reason to all of this. Just as everything, goes well together. just because of the topic at hand. You can tell that this show was curated with a lot of intention, and a lot of care and respect for everybody's, voice, for what everyone has to say.
There were 40 works, so
Yeah.
we had to do magic.
I mean, when I was told that there were going to be that many works in this gallery, I was like, sure, I think it'll fit because, this is a very big space. But I hadn't been in the gallery in quite some time. I think the last time I had been here had been February, maybe. So I came in while you guys were installing last week. No, maybe it was 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure. You guys were like finishing up and taking pictures. And I was like, oh my God, y'all really used up all the space. But it worked. It really worked. So what is the strength? I'm pivoting a little. What is the strength that you bring to Fama? Like you, Aurora.
I want to say that sort of like asking the whys, and finding the sort of like the problem to the solution.
Right.
So it's like, this is what's affecting us, so how can we give it a solution? And I think artists are very good at that. It's like, this is what's happening, right? We're all like, we are a group of like-minded people, so we have a need to solve this issue. So I think I'm very good at finding the tanglement, and then we are on a job of untangling it. So
that's very well said. Everybody needs someone who's ready to tackle everything. It's like, I don't fear anything. I'm ready. Throw me in.
Yeah, no, and that has definitely been the response, because when on the second meeting, I still remember, I couldn't do the count, and then I took a screenshot, and then at the end, Alina and Evelyn stayed there. Let's talk, and we went, like, the three of us at the same time. It's like 30 people. That's a lot. Like, where they came from. So I think definitely everyone was ready to, look for the solution to the problem, and thread it out.
Is there something that you don't think would have been possible without this collaboration, without you, Evelyn, and Alina coming together, without all of these talented people coming together as part of Fama? Like, is there something?
I'll tell you, even if I would have dreamed of creating such a group and inviting people, I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself, not Alina or Evelyn. We couldn't have done it without you. So it's I think we have the four legs to the chair. We're solid. We're on the floor. We did not think about that side of the spectrum when it comes to showing and sharing it to the community, because we're very much involved into creating the content, or thinking about the ways to explain so people were inspired to work.
Right.
That I just had Melanie in there because I knew October was coming, and she sort of like, said, and then you need a contract, and it's like insurance. It's like, oh my God, I forgot I had to do all of these for free. Let's say we have to do this for 40 people. So creating an artist statement, a press release, a statement as a group, all these things that you have to do things properly. So I don't think we could have done it without each other. I think it was a great opportunity for the members to jump in and be given these deadlines, And going forward, we're just hoping that all the members see different opportunities and they go for it, and we're just part of it, you know. We're not the one
Yeah.
to go to, but the ones that will send whatever it's needed to be part of that. So definitely, I think we hold in tighter this time,
Yeah.
um because we sort of like foresaw like this opportunity or how the project would evolve. We were in
Mhm.
close contact with you, so giving the task to someone else to answer the emails or this and that. um but I think going forward we definitely have to, you know, if we want to grow as an association, we definitely have to come center again, and see how everyone could be given a task or responsibility so it doesn't become a burden on only three people.
Right.
So
I'm sure that's going to come organically, just as everything else seems to have
it's
come.
gonna come organically or it's gonna go organically.
It's always one or the other, though. There's no in between. It's not gonna like sway organically. Okay, so the last question I have written for you is, do you have a dream project in mind in the future for Fama? Like, if any project, no
I'll tell
limitation.
you. I mean, if I'm gonna dream, I'll dream. Um, you know, why not? Maybe one day we'll be given space in the Venice Biennial to do an immersive art installation. Why
Fingers
not?
crossed. Oh my God. That would be sick.
So,
That would be so sick.
you know,
That's a dream.
why not? I threw it out there to the universe. Maybe it will come.
Listen, there are things that sometimes you say them and you're like, yeah, but whatever, and then they manifest. So
But I'm
I
telling
hope
you,
that.
Fama started like that. We had talked about it, but just thinking about all the what it entails, and then we joined it forces, and made it happen. So why not? Maybe one of the thousands of members of Fama, not only from Miami, uh, gets to make it happen. So we'll see.
Never know.
But most of it, this was just a silly, I think most of it, what I'll truly would like, it's that this ripples into many new members, uh, getting interested in these techniques, and what fiber art can bring and can sort of aportar. How do you say that?
I don't know how to translate that. I just know.
No.
I don't
What
think
can
there's
bring?
a.
What it can bring
Yeah,
to as a not only as an art form, but as a sort of like a movement, or a definite point in the history of art. Um, so just as the Guerrilla Girls got to make that point in history of, the avant-garde feminism, maybe
right.
this sets a point where it's not that fiber art is becoming popular, which I feel that's what it's heading.
I think so too.
Uh, but it sort of like supports where it comes from and the things and the works being done and how it's used to continue the dialogue and the conversation through the thread. I always tell myself, like, what would have been to be in the 1800s doing needlepoint? I mean,
Yeah,
how could you have used the thread to say something in that time, in the Victorian era? you know I think women were so fed up that they just needed to stress to just let go, and they were doing flowers. But what about if they would have, like, I don't know,
Yeah,
unstitch and
total revolution.
deconstruct that. So maybe these sets that because it never had fiber art. It's always on that verge of craft and art, and I think my commitment to Famites to elevate that, to make that not something that
It's just a hobby
it's
when you're bored.
I mean, I love my dad. He's an artist, and then until this point, I have to hear from him. It's like, tú eres una costurera, you know. It's like you may have a future being a a seamstress, and I said, go for it, you know.
Oh my God.
And that's the perception. So
Yes.
if these could help shift that perception and elevate it, I think we have done the job. You know, we have definitely done the job of many other women that they couldn't do it. And we're there to support that, and we're there, and we're here, not there, but we're here to support that, and we're here to um, claim that and make a statement.
As
Definitely.
you should. You took the words out of my mouth. I was gonna say you could be like the Guerrilla Girls of textile.
Yes, with scissors and thread.
I'm ready. I would love to see it all over the place.
I have my little spider club here, and and seeing the boys, because it's another thing of perception.
Yeah.
Seeing the boys going to the thread, and just erasing that stereotype that you should not embroider if you're a boy. I was talking to Tom Bergings. He did a collaborative piece with his sister, and he said, I grew up listening to sewing machines. That was like sort of like the background noise. And now, but he was saying, now I should have spent more time, paying attention to what you could do to a sewing machine, or have asked my grandmother how to do something with a sewing machine. And he realizes that now as a grown up. But I think it was a matter of perception.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
love seeing the boys that come here that I teach them, and they're weaving, and they become like, so intrigued with the threads and the things you could do with it. I love to shift that perception too.
Yeah. Above all else, I think fiber art, textile art, it's transformative. I mean, this is textile art. It has like little silver frills on the bottom. It's very cute. Um, it's literally like I think her name is Maria Lino. Like she on her piece Teje tu propia vida, weave your own life, and our life
Exactly.
is woven together. I mean, think about all the puns, the fabric of our lives,
No,
weaving
no, and
things together.
the metaphor of
Yeah,
mending, of fixing, of patching, patchwork. It's such a great construct. The fact that textile comes from text, it was a form of carrying your own message on your garment. So there are all these layers. I have this wonderful book that's 500 years of the history of the world through textile. And it's just, you could see the history of the world through textile. It's the one permanent thing after the men stop using taparrabo. It's
right.
textile.
I want that. I'm gonna look into that. I would love to just look through that to have that.
So,
Jeez. Well, the only other question I have for you is a question that was in the comments. It was asked by Brianna, who is a camp team person, Brianna. And she wanted to know if anybody can join FAMA. Like, do they have to be in Miami? Do they have to be a professional fiber artist? Can it just be somebody with interest?
no. So it's a group, and I like to go to our mission statement. I think I'm gonna tattoo it. It's a group of like-minded people. We sort of like erased the artist in it, because therefore you become one. It's a
Right.
group of like-minded people that come together to advance and educate fiber art. So if you have any interest in affiliating to the group, you could become a member on our page, Fiber Art Miami Association. Um, I mean, we put Miami Association because it was born in here.
Right.
But we have a couple of people that were in Miami previously and now they have moved abroad, so they shipped in the work. I got a request by a couple of artists that live in Broward, send them the information. We want to be as inclusive as possible. We don't want to be Miami based per se.
Right.
Um, it's just that, you know, it was born in here. So that advancement and education, first and foremost, we wanted to happen in Miami. Uh, um, so it could, you know, it could travel across. So anyone could become a member. We're starting our calendar with workshops that all the members are invited to. And then there is a couple of ideas floating, but we need sort of like revisit the whole structure and then we're gonna move forward. But yes, everyone is invited. And just check us. Lena has done a wonderful job
Yes, she has.
on the web page. You could see most of the artists that are members there. Go, you know, see more in depth about their work. And you know, we are like 3 months old. It's
Mhm.
We're babies.
You're babies. You're made of so many people though for a baby. If anyone's curious about the website, Alina's put it in the comments. If you can see it, it's fiberartist-miamiassociation.com. Aurora, thank you so much for doing this live. Thank you so much for thoughtful answers and for um, because your joy for this is contagious. Like, I'm happy listening to you, and I hope everybody else is too.
I could
Um,
talk up to my elbows. That's what Alina and Evelyn, they're so peaceful behind cameras. I cannot answer an email without a grammatical error, but I could talk out of my elbows. So
Me
they sent
too.
me out front.
Me too, clearly. Here I am. Thank you so much for partnering with us, for asking us to partner with you on this. It's a privilege. It's an honor. It's so fun. Um, and it just thank you for everything. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it has been great. The camp gallery has been a wonderful support. And part of what has happened is that some artists from the show, the gallery has taken an interest. So those are the happy moments that, you know, from these marriage and sort of like sisterhood, that we walk, um you know, we walk away with, knowing
Yeah.
that this platform has, you know, has had those results. So uh we're gonna keep connecting and threading and weaving and all that comes with it.
Doing, undoing, redoing, live chatting. Um, so for everyone who's watching, you can check out Fama. What is your handle again? It's just Fiber Artists Miami
Miami
Association.
Association, yes.
Um, the show is at the Camp Gallery in Little River. You can view it by appointment only. It's 40 women pulling at the threads of social discourse, put on by Fama and guests. Um, you can DM us to make an appointment. You can email us hello@thecampgallery.com, or you can email me, Maria@thecampgallery.com. Our website is thecampgallery.com, and the show is up from October 1st, which is past, to October 25th. So whenever you want. we'll be here. Thank you, Aurora.
Bye, Maria. Thank you to everyone. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.